So this is the fourth video and the third deployment of the Tika Java Docker container in Azure PaaS services. And this one's going to be Azure Container Service on Linux. So we're going to deploy Java on an Azure Container Service Docker host. I'm hesitant to call this PaaS. I guess it's PaaS because it's a container serve, but it's not like the whole end-to-end wrapped sort of thing that we did with the service fabric and the app fabric. So this is more like an AWS container service in some ways. Pretty much just a hosted cluster. So a couple weird things about this. One is because it's the cluster, it doesn't do like the load balancer and some other stuff. It does put up a public IP, but that means this thing's actually, we're gonna have to connect on 9998 and because we couldn't figure out a way to get it to be redirected. Remember, this is all from the command line. There may be a way to do it with like templates and stuff, but I'm just doing command line kind of thing. And so there's no port mapping, no auto scale, no load balancer. Pretty much it's a single node. Actually, this one can be multi-node. I'll have to look. And there's no Docker Compose support. And basically you just hit the deploy button. So I'm good if anybody finds any errors in this table, but I'll show you real quick how this is going to work. So actually, you know what? Let's look at the resource groups. Let's refresh them. We can see there's no Tika resource group here. We got 5 files again, one to do the login, one to create the resources. So it's just going to create a resource group. Then we're going to, in the create and in the deploy, we're actually going to create a container. And then we're going to run a query against that container to see what it looks like. Okay. And you can see here, we're going to do 2 CPUs and 3.5 gig of memory, and we're just going to make it show up on port 99998. For the undeploy, we just delete the container, and for deleting all resources, we just delete the resource group. You can see all this in the GitHub repo. So we can look here, and we can do this, bash Azure 1. So this will create the resource group, and this will take a minute. And there we go. And then we can come here and we can hit refresh. And it's, oh yeah, no it's not. Dang it, why isn't that working? Let's go back, hit home. Hit the, because I'm impatient, that's why it didn't work. And we can look at the resource groups. And it's still not here. So let's try it again. I don't know why that didn't work. Let's see what I typed. All right, so it's already there, I would hope. So let's see if it shows up this time. Oh yeah, look, I don't know why it did that. Okay, so in this resource group, there is nothing. So now let's go run the deployment. So it's going to create an ACS container. I just want you to remember when we looked at this, this is really just going to create a container and then tell us what the container looks like. So if we look in the resource group, we might see, nope, not happening yet. All right, so we'll wait and I will pause this. So it takes a couple minutes and we might be able to tell from the activity how long it's going to take. So here it says that it's been created successfully. So let's go look. We should be able to refresh the group, the resource group. There we go. And we can see that there are container instances out there tied to this resource group. We go to the container instance. We can see the containers that are out there. And it's this one here. The container is FSI Tika, blah, blah, blah. You can also see the timing here. It claims that it only took a minute. It had to pull the image from Docker Hub and then deploy it. All right, so then the question is, how do we know where it went? We should be able to go to properties and we can see that this is the fully qualified domain name with this port, right? Remember, I couldn't remap the Tika parser port. So we got the fully qualified domain name here, and we see the port. So in theory, we should be able to come up here and hit enter, and there we go. So we can actually see that this worked. You can find these scripts here in the Docker Tika area, and the one I'm looking at right now is the Azure Container Service. If we want to tear these down, super easy. We have two choices. We can just tear the cluster down and rebuild it, leaving the resources there. So if we put like disk drives, not just like shared drives, or we put blob storage or a database tied to this, we might just want to deploy and undeploy. So I'm actually going to run the undeploy. So this will undeploy the app, and we'll pause. And that says it's deleted. We can come over here and look at the resource group at FSI Tiki. And here we can see that the container has vanished from the resource group. So now we can delete the resource group. And there's not much in this resource group, so it shouldn't take too long, but we'll pause anyway. So that took 3 or 4 minutes. It deleted the resource group. We can come back to the resource groups. We see this one still hanging around, so let's refresh it. And it's gone. So we created a resource group. We deployed a Docker. We created a Docker container ACS instance, and we deployed a map into it. We had it from our web endpoint, and then we tore it back down. That's it. You should be able to see this in FreemanSoft Docker scripts. If you go to the Tika area, you'll find the scripts for the 3 PaaS services.